What are you up to, man?
Honestly, I
Edit,
can't.
editing all the all the Coffee with Costa videos.
Yeah, clearly, yeah, no. The YouTube channel, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a lot of fun with the YouTube channel. Everyone that's watching right now, like and subscribe. Coffee with Costa. We're at 70. I think we're 74 subscribers. We're
Yeah,
so close to
we need
100.
to hit that 100, guys. Come on,
We need
tell
the support,
everybody.
please. We need the support.
If you're
So, like,
if you're
I'm not.
enjoying, my stories of getting my, skull cracked through a window, tune in. There's more. There's more interesting stories.
More great stories to come. I if there is a project, I can't. I gotta be careful about how I phrase this one because like it's not necessarily my news to break. But if I'm hinting at alluding to something bigger coming out, a mutual friend of ours is releasing a certain instructional very
Oh,
soon.
man, I can't wait.
So that's gonna be really fun to watch.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned
Take
on my
my
channel.
money. Take my money. Take my money.
No, I'm really excited. If he's watching right now, then I hope he's not. I hope no. I didn't spoil anything too much, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
I'm pretty sure everybody that's gonna watch this is gonna want to know what it is, and when you find out what it is, you're gonna want to buy it.
sure. We're cooking the beans here. This is how we build suspense accordingly. So.
Yeah.
But
Can't wait. Can't wait.
stay tuned to my channel, and eventually, there'll be a lot. Other besides that, though, I'm hitting some production snags on like something I've been cooking up for about 8 months now.
Yeah.
It's been taking a little longer than I thought, but it's just hitting some personal roadblocks. But we're just about there in terms of release for me. So
Yeah.
I'm actually in terms of digital content and stuff I'm trying to churn out. I'm actually really excited. Actually, like
Yeah.
my face
No.
might not be showing it right now, but no, it's yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Um,
We're.
I
I'm like, I know that I've said this before, but I'm pretty happy that we came to this, get together and join forces kind of thing. I just didn't
I
think
think
that the format that I had before was gonna go very far. So, like, I'm excited about some of the things that we talked about and what the plans that we have. I'm really excited about the one that we talked about where we're gonna, go places and do certain things.
oh absolutely yeah no
Yeah,
this
I'm ex that one's gonna be. I think it's gonna surprise people, and I think they'll get excited about it. So, the few
we
people that I
just
bounced
got
the
it.
idea, the few people that I bounced the idea off of, they were like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
dude, that's great. That's gonna be amazing." Blah blah blah. So I'm like pretty excited for us and the Coffee with Costa brand. So I'm pretty excited for that.
There's ways to get around this. There's ways to get around this loophole, like or issue that I think we might run into. But if we, like, I'm just want to throw the plug in right now. We need to hit certain amount of subscribers to unlock a couple features on YouTube that are critical to this plan. So please, guys, for the love
Yes,
of God,
subscribe,
subscribe. We
like,
need to hit 100, a
share,
thousand, all of that.
all that good
But
stuff.
I guess no, but it's humble beginnings first, right? We need to like we're starting here, but the first things first. This lockdown needs to be lifted, and it's to get into I guess like COVID-19 is actually throwing a lot of big rent. It's been a blessing in disguise for me in some ways, and it's just well,
Hmm.
and just been an absolute nightmare for everyone, myself included. Um,
Yeah, pros
I
and
guess
cons, man. Pros and
pros and
cons
cons.
to every single little tidbit of life,
Mhm.
Everything you do has a pro and a con.
So I guess
Some
I
some
started.
are some have more pros than cons, but or more cons than pros, but you always have to weigh things in and
Mhm.
yeah, Trish, thanks for coming in here, girl. So yeah, man, like you have to weigh in everything and see, okay, what's good, what's bad, and all that. And yeah, there's definitely is not an ideal way of life, but there's some silver lining for sure that has come with it. So
Well if we're starting a little bit more on a positive note, I just for me at least it's like it's been a really good outlet. Like this time has been a really good. It's been a really good time frame to just get my digital presence online because it's the only thing I can realistically do, right? And honestly, it's given us the time to actually join forces and do this properly. I know for
yeah.
a fact I wouldn't be able to do this proper before, right? Given
Hmm.
the hectic nature of my schedule and my work. I guess like, are there any like I know especially since your business is based in just like like being face to face and like being very close proximity is jujitsu. Are there any silver linings here that have come out for you that you may have not ever realized or anticipated?
Um, as far as the silver lining goes, I mean, I've had more time to work on some things that kind of fell behind, like curriculum based, structural based, front
I
end,
love it.
back end, things in within the academy that were falling behind
Hmm.
because of my insanely hectic schedule.
Yeah.
With I have a lot on my plate, and some things always kind of fall through the cracks when you have a full plate and you try to schedule everything, but sometimes it's just not enough hours in the day. So I've managed to catch up on some projects, and I still have a few other things that I can work on as well. So I have things to keep me busy. So it's kind of like a half and half, like
Hmm.
half working on some things that I like. I have more time to watch instructionals, and I love to learn.
Hey.
I love to learn, so I'm trying to keep my knowledge base fresh. And so I've had more time for that, which before I found I was having a hard time. Like, and actually, that's what I love to do, man. I love to learn. I love to teach. I love to coach. But
You
I
kind
didn't
of
have as much time before with the business and teaching classes and affiliates and all this other stuff, right?
I want to compound
So
on
the
that,
silver
but I think
lining is,
oh, sorry, please, yeah,
yeah.
finish
So
your thought. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Bad timing.
so yeah, the silver lining is definitely having more time to finish up some projects that I was falling behind, and spending more time with my family, my kids. I see them, a lot now, and I get to, watch them, what they're up to, and hang out with them, have more conversation and all that. But yeah, so definitely, get to see my amazing wife every day. You know, she works really, really hard, man. She's a teacher, and you have
Yeah,
no
you've
idea
told me
how
that.
much work she has to put in. Even with this distance learning that they're doing, like she's has to basically put everything together, put it up online, get the kids to look at it. Then they have to respond back to her. She has to correct all that work, then send it all back. It's not, I really, really get mad that people really don't have a full understanding of how much work teachers do, and they don't get enough respect, and that just pisses me off.
Well, I guess you're both teachers at the if we're kind of looking at this, right? You're both teachers, so I can only imagine like between lesson planning and making sure you actually execute the lesson plan properly. If you have an off day, there's that variable too, which and
Yeah.
like there's also just like are people receptive. Not to mention now we've all had to move to online systems that are like slowly just developing now
Yeah.
because of this crisis, right?
We're all
Um,
adapting to this online stuff, herself included, so.
hmm hmm Um, I just want to take a quick break right here. Just say that we are getting to the discussion topic. Everyone, last 15 minutes for Q&A. Please keep relevant to the topic, but please post your questions, post away. We will try to get to all of them throughout the show. And other small news is please guys like subscribe and tune into our YouTube channel. Otherwise, yes, that's that. That's I just want to get out of the way real quick. Cool.
Thanks,
In
Mel.
regards to I guess
Thanks, Mel.
let's
You're right. I know, for sure. Go
I
ahead.
guess yes, I guess if we're just jumping right into it then, let me just pull up my notes here for a sec. Let's dive into dive into nitty gritty. Let's a hypothetical situation. 14 days out, uh, the lockdown is lifted. Coronavirus is still an issue, but the world everyone is allowed to go back to business and go back to normal. This question is based off of something that actually Nicholas posted on the Ontario Jiu-Jitsu Association group or the Canadian Grappling Association group. But how do you? I want your opinion. How do you think jiu-jitsu academies and schools and gyms are going to change in order to accommodate the new times?
I just had this conversation with my wife this morning, and
Perfect.
literally like spent the last 2 days online, just keeping an eye. Well, I keep an eye on the whole industry every day, and what's going on, what's not going on, and just keeping an eye out. I say, what are some of people's strategies as to, how are they going to open back up, and what are they planning on doing? Because here's the thing that people have to understand: We're not just going to open the door and everybody walks in and we're going to go back to normal.
No.
It's not going to happen like that. It's going to have some limitations at first, and how do you adapt to those limitations and how do you adjust? And can you put in all implement all the rule blocks in order to make it safe for people to come back, or in order for people to feel like it is safe to come back?
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's a lot more work than it's going to take effort to really plan everything out. So if you're only allowed 10 people in the building, well, we may have
Oh,
to start
jeez. Yeah.
we may have to start with multiple classes throughout the day. We may have to have just solo drill classes at first. Maybe invest in some grappling dummies and have grappling dummy class. Keep in
Gotcha.
mind, you have to add times to clean everything every time. So after every class, you have to clean everything.
No, yeah, yeah,
People won't be allowed to use the change room, so you got to come in already with your gi on or something along those lines. Nobody in the lobby. So if we're talking about kids classes, like parents have to drop off their kid and pick them up. They won't be hanging around in the lobby area. And it's like incremental. Like, okay, then it's a little safer. Okay, now we can start having like designated partner classes.
yeah. Hmm.
You know, you have to keep somehow. How do we manage the social distancing? Well, we may have to put squares on the mat. You're only allowed to be on that square, and be distance enough. So it's there's all kinds of crazy ideas how we're gonna come back, but people must understand,
Mm.
because of
Mm.
the nature of our sport and our art, this is not going to be an easy transition, and it's not going to be like, oh, we're good, let's go. A lot of people are not going to be comfortable coming back like that. They want to make
That's
sure. So as academy owners, we have to ensure that there's safety measures put in place, like hand sanitizing stations, and again, cleaning everything after every class, minimal contact at first, maybe just like I said, solo drill classes, grappling dummy classes. And those grappling dummies, of course, have to be cleaned after every class, which means you got to have like two sets. One set while people are using, one set while it's being cleaned and dried, and then stuff like that. So it's going to be challenging. And again, it's up to academy owners to want to, you know, decide if they want to implement these measures. I mean, I've also heard of a couple of academies in the US that they just said, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm just going to close,
just closing doors.
pack up my stuff, wait till all this is done, and then open again.
Yes.
You
Well,
know,
that's my
so
follow-up question to this actually was
so it's
because
it's it's complicated
mm,
because you're dealing with landlords, and what are they willing to do and what they're not willing to do. There's so much, like, we may not be able to get all the members back right away. So what does that mean? We're going to have a limited amount of income to work with. So if it's challenging because we may not be able to afford to pay instructors, for example. So there's going to be a heavy workload on one or two people. If we go into teaching these multiple classes in order to adjust to the amount of people you can have per class. So
mm,
it's but these are all things that I think academy owners need to really start owning in on, and making these decisions. A lot of them, are doing a fantastic job with online Zoom classes. They have full schedules online with Zoom classes. I think
mm,
that's not gonna go away. I think that's gonna continue. I think that's gonna continue. That you're gonna have to find a balance between slowly allowing people into the academy and have these new structured classes,
it's
right?
just another avenue
And
to go down. Yeah. Yeah.
plus the online Zoom for those who still don't feel safe and comfortable to coming back. Instructors may have to teach all classes with the mask. If that's that all depends also on what are the government mandates, the provincial government mandate, not the national government mandates. Like, all this stuff is gonna you know, you have to make these decisions. So for
Professor,
me,
I just want to say, like you said, you know, it's just well, you said seems to set like a gold standard in terms of like if we actually want to go open up like within like the scope of like 14 days from now, like making sure we follow
mhm,
protocols, things are clean, we section things off and slowly climb. And like
mhm.
I just wanted to, like where do you stand on like is this worth it versus let's just phone it in and then start again like in a year? Like where do you I guess
It all depends on, man, this is not a simple answer.
hmm
It's, you
hmm
really have to think things through, but ultimately, you have to think as a, because it's a tough balancing act between being a martial arts instructor and running martial arts classes and being an entrepreneur businessman. And ultimately, the decision falls on the business side of things. Does it make sense financially? Can we, that's what it's a lot of, like, it's not an easy decision. You got to weigh in a lot of factors to make that final decision,
hmm
right? So
right.
conversations with landlords, and looking at, okay, how many people are willing to come back, and are they willing to accept the new norm of the way the classes are going to run,
Which is better than nothing at this point.
and then whether or not they just rather wait till things go back to fully normal. So there's definitely a lot of things to kind of, like, going back to the beginning of our Insta live here, where we were talking about pros and cons, and that's basically
Right.
what you have to do. You have to make a list of all the pros and all the cons of all the options you may have, and it's not just like, okay, go this way or close. No, there's more. There's like three or four paths that you can take, and then you have to figure out, like, another path you can take is, well, you know what, I'm gonna wait till this goes back to fully normal, but I'm not closing either. Well, that means, can I afford to pay the lease until then, until that decision is made? Can I keep the
hmm
academy, you know, 3, 4, 5 months with nobody in it, right?
Yeah.
So no memberships, right? Can I afford that? So there's so many paths you can look at, and eventually, as a business owner, that's ultimately how I'm going to have to make my decision. And that's tough
hmm
because, you build a culture, you build a family, you build a community, and there's I
Honestly, the
think
people
it's
tuning in right
and
now
I
have
think
familiar
regardless
faces,
and
right?
I think
Yeah.
regardless I think they're always going to be there, whether or not you make this effort, or I think they'll be patient enough if you choose to wait it out. So it's not an easy decision,
Mhm.
and I think it needs to be thought out thoroughly. Rem and I have constant communication, and
It's good to
and
hear.
we're like, and weighing in all our options, and of course we're going to let our students, and our as soon as the thing is, as soon as we have something concrete, because not it's too up in the air to really discuss, right? So within, I think, a week or two, we'll probably be reaching out to our members and giving them our, like, how we see how we're going to progress, and if they're on board, or if they want to be on board or not.
Sounds well. I that gives a lot of confidence, and like in the sense as a member and part of the team. It's like, no, I'd be lying if this is a big part of my life too, and yeah, it's a pretty big void right now, pretty big void. So I'm glad. No, it's this
So
shows a lot of
sorry, just to
confidence.
address, so we don't miss a couple of things here. I know some
Please,
guys
yeah.
are. I know it's hard that
hmm
they, we have to try and keep a word on this. So I appreciate the support from the everyone saying that, you're going to show us some love. But with my good friend, Chris Belvas, he runs a BO4 affiliate in Winnipeg. He's awesome, and he does a fantastic job out there, and really appreciate his support. And he's asking a good question. It's like, is Ontario helping with the rent relief? Yes, they do have something put in place as of last week, but the problem is ultimately it's not mandated. So it's ultimately up to the landlord whether or not they want to choose that option. And if they choose not to take that option, then we have we have no choice but to follow whatever they decide. You know what I mean? So it's ultimately up to the landlord if they want to take this government offer that the government is offering. And the offer means the government will give 50% of whatever the landlord makes from a property. Government will give 50%, right? Then the myself as the person that rents, I paid 25%. So they're making 75%, but they have to take a loss of 25%, right? So they take a loss of 25%, and they have to have an agreement that they won't evict anyone. So
Oh,
if they agree to the accepting the government money plus the 25% from the person renting, well, first so they take 25% loss, and they can evict you. So I can see a lot of landlords not wanting to go that route.
I'm already
I
seeing
all
Costa Combat just commented their landlord said no to the deal, and I didn't realize
Yeah,
that you need to show a 70% loss to the
some
government,
of
which
them don't
that's
qualify. For example, like if you outright own your property, you don't qualify,
oh
right? Because
okay.
it's for landlords that have a mortgage, right?
Mm.
Landlords that have a bill to pay. So some people don't qualify for that. Also, there's the idea. I know for a fact that there's landlords taking advantage of this opportunity to get rid of old tenants that they may, have been under had a lease agreement, but they're taking this opportunity. Like if you can't afford to pay, okay, get out. And I think that's
I've
what
heard
they want.
stories about
Some
this.
of them
Yeah.
want that because they either want to resell their building,
Mhm.
or they want to resell their building, or they just want a tenant that that's not working out with them. They just want them out, right? So it's definitely a tricky thing.
It's and yeah, I've heard horror stories of like people coming to the business and like doors are padlocked already, like just because they couldn't make rent on the first.
Well,
It's
the one thing about
it's dire.
it's clear that they can't do that. From the day that you stop paying, you have 21 days before they can evict you or before they can close you out.
Got you. You have a
Right?
grace period.
You
Good
have
practice,
21
yeah.
days before they can put the padlock on.
Mhm.
So if they do that prior or before, like the 21 days, get a lawyer, man. Right?
I'm a little bit. I'm not so savvy in business lingo, but Fighters Market Canada says our landlord agreed with just TMI for the next 3 months. What's I'm not sure
Well,
that
that's
what's
a good
TMI
deal,
means.
man. That's a good deal. That's a very good deal.
For the layman like myself and
TM,
our viewers watching, what's TMI?
well,
What does TMI
TMI
mean?
is basically your water, your heat, your electricity, and your property tax.
Oh,
It
okay.
just right.
Oh,
So
okay.
if they outright own the building, you're just basically covering that bill. You're covering that for them.
Okay,
It
I see. I see.
covers their costs. The costs that they have, you're covering their costs. Right?
Utilities. So it's like okay, which is substantially lower than the cost of rent. Right. Very
Yes.
cool.
Yeah. So
Okay. Oh, I'm glad to
man,
hear it.
I heard one amazing story from the U.S. Again, there's amazing people out there. The one landlord gave the martial arts school 1 free year. One
Wow.
free year. They don't have to pay for a year in order to, help them out and make sure that they don't close their doors. So there's good people out there too. There isn't just scumbags. There's some good people out there too, right?
Oh, we need to hear more heartwarming stories like that. That should be publicized. My God.
Yeah.
Um, I related to this whole topic. I'm very curious. What kind of support would you like to see from the community? Not just necessarily personally from your gym to you, but like from like all patrons of gyms to their gym owners. What would be ideal for you if you really want to see your gym culture thrive and stay open in this hard time?
Well, I think ultimately, you know, you need to just stay in contact with the academy owner and your professor if you've built a relationship with them. Like check in on them, talk to them, ask them how you can help and support, because it can be in different ways. It doesn't not necessarily have to be money, right? But
Mm,
I find that it's the always the other way around. It's the professor calling everyone, hey, how you doing? How, thank you so much for the support. I appreciate it. Maybe you worked something out, maybe you didn't, but it's always like on the professor to always be like reaching out to everyone. And I think that as a professor and as an academy owner, I would appreciate that the love would come the other way as well. That people would be reaching out to me, contacting me, checking in on me, or, even just offering support, which I have from a lot of our students. But the truth is, the majority, and you can't blame them. And I think the majority are dealing with their own issues. They're dealing with
Yeah.
tough times and dealing with these struggles and dealing with this COVID-19 and how it's affecting them. So I don't blame them for that. But if you are thinking about helping out, definitely just call your professor, email them, contact them, and find out, because I think there's some professors are okay, they're stable, they're doing fine. Others could be struggling and are on the brink of closing. And I think if a lot of the student base came forward and say, hey, how can we help? We want you to keep going, don't give up kind of thing. I think would lift their spirits and maybe, find ways to figure out a way to keep the doors open when we do go back to normal. And
Mm.
as we discussed previously, this is not an easy thing because, you know, uh, there's so many, the nature of our martial art is tricky, man. It's tricky. We can't just open doors and away we go.
Yeah.
And yes, Mel, thank you so much for reminding me. Guys, come on, man, attend the Zoom classes, like a lot of we have a good turnout, we have a decent turnout, but I think it could be a lot better, and I email everyone, I contact everyone regularly and trying to get them, but I think, like I said, I think people are more worried about where they are and all that other stuff. So, hey, Brockman, my buddy, Lofi, thanks for joining in, man. Thanks a
Well,
lot,
Justin
brother.
Brookman
Appreciate it.
Adventures is tuning in. Oh, this is
Yeah,
great.
so by
Oh
the way,
man.
that reminds me, we are going to be
Mm.
doing an Insta Live. Me and I'll be on the Justin Bruckman Adventure tonight, Insta Live at 7. So if you want to listen to me and Lofi talk about, Justin talk about like more crazy stories about the old days in the dungeon. I know you guys listened to my story about my head going through the glass. I'm sure we can discuss a few other insanity moments from, you know, a few insanity moments. Oh, it's Clapboy. All right, cool, cool, cool. So yeah, let Lofi know,
Uh,
let Justin know that we're pumping the show. 7 o'clock tonight if you want to listen to me and Professor Justin Bruckman talk some
um,
insanity.
Before I move on to, I guess, less of the business side of things in regards to the community and more about the personal. Let's go. Fighters Market Canada. Should the OJA be helping out academies? I think that's actually that's a great that's a great question.
Oh, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky
Um,
question.
I- I'll
I
give
think I
my. I
think
just want to chime in here.
listen,
Okay.
I
Okay.
I'm gonna be a bit of an asshole and say no. You know why? Because I know how much money they have in the bank, kind of, and I don't think they would be able to support each and every academy. And the other thing is half of the academies don't register with the OJA. You know what I mean? They're like
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
sub affiliates that register only under one team or one academy. So in order for the OJA to help, they would have to have every single registered academy, how many members they have, and all. And I think they've taken steps to try and convince that people of that. But no, I don't think they have enough funds to help every single BJJ academy in Ontario. I don't know. That would get depleted really quick. But on
Yeah.
for another day, maybe having a discussion on how the OJA should be doing more with that money, as far as like how can they put more into the BJJ community as a whole,
Mm, mm,
right?
mm.
So that's another story. That's for another day. And Crystal, no, LB, the Insta Live at 7 is gonna be under the Justin Bruckman Adventure. So please go to Justin Bruckman Adventure and subscribe to their Instagram account, and it'll be on their account that I'll be joining in on.
And if you're
That's
subscribing to things, you may as well just subscribe to Coffee with Costa on YouTube.
yes.
100 subscribers. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that
we
out
need
there.
we need to reach that.
So moving away from the business side of things for a second, I guess as a martial artist and as a coach and as like I guess mentor to a lot of athletes and whatnot, I guess there seems to be a common like this is a lifestyle for a lot of people, and honestly, if you're not able to compete and not able to do what you want to do, it's kind of there's a sense of a loss of identity. It's not just a hobby; it's bigger than that. I guess. Can you
Well, the
speak on
thing,
that?
well, I think the diehards are like would take the risk and just want to come back to like regular classes, right? They would
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
screw it, I want to roll, right? I
yeah.
miss rolling. I miss, hanging out with my friends and training hard, and you know what I mean. So I think the diehards, the higher belts, the ones that have been training for a long time, I think they would just, if I said, hey, I'm opening the doors now, they would be just okay with doing it normally and
They don't
wanting,
care.
and
Yeah.
they would take the risk of probably catching COVID-19 or not. You know what I
And we are
mean?
not endorsing that. We're not
Well,
endorsing
no,
that,
we're not
but
endorsing it. I'm just saying I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people willing to
Mhm.
do that because they just miss it so much and it's such a big part, of their lives, you know. I think there's a few people there that'd
This
be
is great.
crazy
The
enough to want to
comments.
do that, right?
We're already getting
Uh,
people saying they do it anyway. Yeah, that's great. No, I love the enthusiasm. I'm not endorsing it. I love the enthusiasm.
right. But keep in mind that there's also a lot of new people, and for them it might be a hobby, or they just recently got introduced, and they may not be willing to take that risk, you know. So, and I think the majority falls under that category. The majority falls under the few, the majority fall under the like, no, I don't think I want to come back. I don't want to risk it. I'm not, my soul is not invested in it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh, yeah. So it's hard, and but guys, just keep in mind, like, but you have to remember, okay, yes, it's only been 2 months, you know. I think a lot of us can survive without jiu-jitsu for a bit here,
Yeah.
focusing on our families, focusing on our, making sure our future is not at risk. So your whatever careers you may be involved in, and I think that's where people should be focusing in. We will be back to full jiu-jitsu at some point or another, full classes like we used to, enjoying ourselves and and promoting the art that we are passionate about. We just have to be super patient here, you know what I mean? We just have to be super patient and support whatever your professors are doing. So if it's Zoom classes, man, get on those Zoom classes, you know what I mean? Get involved in those things. If they're doing
Sorry.
Insta lives, support the Insta lives. Be there. You know what I mean? So uh, definitely invest. Take this time to invest in education. And Kevin has a good question here, Professor. Do you have any favorite books you would recommend for coaches, sports psychology, or for athletes? There's so many books out there on that topic of sports psychology. Keep in mind that a lot of it is based on the big sports like football, basketball, hockey, and so on. So, but there's definitely some, like mental preparation wise, it's the same, just different sport. There's a lot of stuff out there. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I have read a few, but for me, I don't do a really good job with reading anymore. I have a hard time with that, so I love webinars.
Mhm.
And if you type in sports psychology on YouTube, there'll be a few that'll come up, webinars, and then you just kind of listen. There's a couple. There was one that I watched, was I think the former coach of the Philadelphia hockey team, and he was great, man. He had a lot of good things to say and a lot that made sense and things that I could bring back to jiu-jitsu and as a jiu-jitsu coach. So there's lots of stuff out there. I think I can't think of one specific off the top of my head, but definitely there's content there. And now you have the time to do a little bit of research, right? So,
Focus on that
man,
mental
type it in
aspect.
on Google, type it in on YouTube. There's gonna be so much stuff on there. Yeah, some is garbage, uh, or not, like, but you can tell right away, like the quality of the video and the quality of the way the person presents themselves, and you know what I mean. So yeah, there's a lot of good content. Take advantage of that for sure.
I guess we're at this point. I think we've done a good job keeping up with questions, but let's 100% open up the floor even further. If people have questions, please comment away, whether it's COVID-19 or anything you got you want to get off your chest.
Well, anything you want to add to the conversation that we've had all this time? So that would be, you know what I mean? So, oh, there's a Sam Harris' latest podcast about habit forming is excellent. You know what? Thank you, sir. I will look
Ooh,
into that. I will look
big
into
fan
that for
of
sure. Yeah,
big fan
I
of
will
Sam
look
Harris
into that.
myself.
So, yeah,
Uh-huh.
any questions you guys may have or anything you want to, add? Yeah, Lorenz, you're a little late.
No, we actually
we,
covered Lauren's. Like she was one of
we,
the people that
we,
like actually.
we start at noon, all right? All right, Jay,
Oh,
what's
Jason
your
put the hard
question?
question out there. A hard question. Best case scenario: when can people start rolling? Ooh.
I'm not gonna answer that.
Don't hold it
No, no,
in.
no disrespect, Jay, but I don't know. I have an idea, but I don't want to speculate. You know what I mean? I really don't know. It depends on so many variables. It really does depend on so many variables. So it's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like in terms of like when can we start rolling again? Like I know for a fact that there are people like running underground open mats right now. So like, I don't
Hey
know.
man, if you want to take that risk, that's on you. You know what I
now
mean?
mind you, yeah, mind you, like they're
Is it a
being
good?
careful
But
and
here's the
taking
thing: you have to
precautions.
keep. People asked me if I was gonna do it, and at first I was like being like rebellious, and I was so upset. You know, um, when this first originally started, and the idea that I would have to close my academy.
Uh,
You know what I mean? Uh, I was like being rebellious and kind of like, man, what the hell, this and that. So I was like, honestly, I'm gonna be honest and say I was talking to some of the higher belts. I was like, man, we'll just come in here, we'll decide the times, and we'll just roll around. And of course, I came to my senses and realized that that's irresponsible. And as an academy owner and as a team leader, I had to go, wait a minute, this is irresponsible, and you need to set a better example for people, and you have a responsibility to your students and your affiliate members. And I'm like, no, no way. So there's no underground roles going on in my academy
I
because
was 100% considering it myself.
it's speaking, man, like I have a family, I have three amazing kids and beautiful wife, and it's not fair for me to put them at risk. And we have my mother-in-law who's battling through battling through a case of cancer, and we're not like, I'm like, no, I'm not. This is childish, and my emotions got the most out of me. But then you know sense kicked in, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, this is not, you're not doing this right. So
We all got to do our parts accordingly. So just
legally, like exactly like our good friend here says, legally it would be a nightmare, and I could have my doors closed, and it's just not good.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's
I know that I've heard the same thing about guys just getting together, rolling around in their garage, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you know,
yeah, yeah. Like I got the invites. I'm not gonna lie, I was considering it myself, but like when you just think about like I don't know. I've been hearing the news reports about how like I don't know what's the latest thing like feet rashes and people like younger people dying too now. That's
there's been a few, yeah, a couple of
yeah.
teenagers that had no conditions whatsoever. They actually died from COVID, not because of pre-existing condition or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, 15 minutes,
Otherwise,
people. Come on, give us some stuff to talk about here. Come on,
otherwise,
patience, man. Again, I just want to say patience. We will get back to normal. Whether it's 2 months from now, 4 months, 5, 10 months, a year from now, we will be back to doing, you know, what we love to do at full force. So take this time to educate yourself further. Make sure that you're doing some kind of exercise, that you're moving around and watching what you eat and all that, because I know a lot of people are struggling with keeping that weight off. Chris, it's never happening, man. Not moving to Winnipeg, brother. It's not gonna
Brand,
happen.
Branded Hair and Leather Works. Let's see, Professor. How do you see this changing protocols and health and safety once academies begin reopening? We
My
touched on this a
friend,
little bit in the
my
beginning.
friend, my friend, you're a little late to the conversation. I talked about a lot of topics on how we would, academies have to start if they choose to open early when given that yellow light, and how what they would have to do. So my friend, I'm sorry. I would recommend that you rewatch it once we're done with the live. It'll be back up on my stories. So go back on it and watch it from the beginning. We thoroughly discussed a lot of what academies may have to do going forward.
I will be reposting this to YouTube very shortly as well. So please like and subscribe on your YouTube channel, Coffee with Costa. Not to be confused with
Yeah.
Costa Coffee. Just
So if you want to
okay.
if you want to catch it today, then go on my Insta live on my Insta stories. If you want to catch it on your own time, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Coffee with Costa, and then you'll see it there. Probably by as early as tomorrow morning or late tomorrow afternoon.
What else? Oh, on the topic of like self-learning and whatnot, I wanted to actually ask, do you have any key-related
Crystal,
suggestions?
Crystal, I'd be willing to sign some petition or letter to the landlord asking them nicely.
Um,
Oh, that's cool.
in regards to instructionals, do you have any recommendations for people to watch in terms of just self-learning at home? Whoopsie.
So just give me a minute here. I want to make sure my battery's not going to die on me.
For sure. Everyone's going to open weight. Everyone's just bulking up right now.
Sorry, yes. I don't know why this thing's not really. Oh, here we go.
It's a bit of a somber topic today, but I'm glad we discussed it. We got a lot of participation. So thank you guys for everyone watching. Thank you so much for actually actively taking part in the discussion. This was actually a lot of fun. So
yeah, I mean,
it's
not all topics are gonna be hokey dory good times. There's some serious things that we need to talk about. You know what I mean? There's some serious stuff that we need to deal with, and this is a serious time and things that we have to deal and address, right?
You know what? Let's ignore my question about instructionals for a second, although we can get to that later. How do you think tournaments are going to come out, like, be affected by this? Like, do you think we're just going to not have any, or?
Oof, I really didn't want to get into that one because I don't know. I don't want to say it because I have our tournament scheduled for October,
Mhm.
but you know, unless this goes back to people being able to train regularly, let's say end of August, giving some people maybe 4 to 6 weeks to train and commit to.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. Worst
So
case
it's a little bit up
scenario.
in the air.
Worst case scenario here. We're in a lot of trouble, and we're not back until next year, right?
Right, I
Back,
see.
maybe December running provincials, but I don't know. I really don't know. I'm hoping not because that is going to put a huge strain on myself and David Costa and Vasily, who we invested so much time and energy on our tournament, and we're hoping that we'll be able to run it in October. But we also understand that people are going to need time to train, and so as long as again, if we get the green light, I still think that people are going to support it and people are going to come and people are just so excited and want to be the sooner this goes back to normal, people are just look 2 months. We're just 2 months without, and everybody's already like freaking out and like wanting to train and compete and all that, right? So I'm hoping that if we get like a full open doors back to normal training by late August, I think we're good. I think we're
Professor,
okay for the rest of the. I think we're okay for the rest of the
uh,
year.
I didn't mean to bring up a heavier topic. I apologize. I didn't. I think, but it's as a competitor myself, it's something I was actually I completely forgot. How did I forget about this topic of all things for this episode? But it's still something I want. I personally want to know. I know for a fact that whether I'm there on Coffee with Costa or there as a competitor, it's like at the very least I'd be there to support. I want to see the tournament, like the competition circuit thrive. I don't want to see it fall apart.
Yeah.
It brings me. It's like actually,
No, like anything else,
it's a big part of my
basically what
life.
I
Right?
said, we're gonna need some patience here, and Ace too. Thanks for tuning in. You're a little late. We're almost done, but thanks. I appreciate the support, brother. Yeah, I mean, patience, patience. I know everybody wants everything to happen now, but we're not going to be back to normal just like that, right? So definitely, if best case scenario, we may have the end of the year to do a few competitions. Worst case scenario, it won't start until January of new year, new kind of vibe, right?
It's okay. We'll take the year to revamp our games accordingly. Revamp it. Yeah.
Lawrence, man. Oh my goodness.
You're joking about
Well,
that
that's
alien topic, but I might take you up on that. I'll cook
okay.
something up for the next episode.
I'll get working on that curriculum. All right, I'll get working on that.
Halloween curriculum for children. It's great. It's great.
Oh man.
Um, so okay, I'm actually really curious then. I guess I'm coming from this from like very much so a consumer standpoint, a practitioner standpoint. Is there anything behind the scenes that's happening right now with
I
the
knew it. I
gyms?
knew it.
It was
Sorry,
Kyle.
man. I knew it was Kyle. I knew it. Anyway, go ahead, brother. Sorry.
Um, Kyle, you look good in the dress, by the way. Uh, what's it
Uh,
called? You no that video. Was it?
no.
No, it's nightmare fuel. Realistically speaking, I was okay. Anyways, no, but are there gym owners actually doing anything?
What do you mean
Like
by?
doing anything behind the scenes? Have are you
Yeah,
guys
I think
talking
so.
together as a
Yeah,
community?
I think so. Yeah, we've had a few meetings when all this started. A lot of us got together in the Zoom call. Like, we put away, teams and put away like bullshit within guys. And a lot of people came together and we were just kind of discussing, okay, what are we going to do to deal
Oh,
with all this, right? And the big consensus was, online content and Zoom
yeah,
classes, but if we had these conversations, but eventually it becomes like, okay, what else can you do? And there isn't that much other than, online platform and how to maximize the online platform, even as far as trying to get new students within the new platform, right? Trying to get like brand new
yeah,
students to buy into the online classes. So, yeah, definitely there's a lot of work going on. And guys, man, there's some hustlers out there, not hustlers in a bad word, but like they're grinding, they're hustling, they're trying to get their going, they're trying to come up with ideas to keep their academy going and without having to shut down. So there's plenty of people doing a lot of work trying to do, to adjust to the what is the new norm now, right? And some people are willing to go as far as trying to sell new memberships and trying to get new students to this online platform, or just trying to maintain and keep the students they already have, right? So there's a lot of work being done, but unfortunately I've heard stories as well where people have had to close, and or maybe not close permanently, but because of
oh, we're losing connection a little bit.
people's landlords being douchebags, they have to like close temporarily, close up shop, and then try to reestablish themselves later again. So I've heard those
Hmm.
stories as well.
I just saw some news reports online. Just like a couple of schools in the states have been closing down. But it's nice to
Yeah.
hear that like everyone's putting aside the petty sport competition beef, or like even just business beef in general. If there is genuine animosity, and seeing that you guys are actually kind of helping each other out now.
Good question by Kevin here. We have about 5 minutes left, and yeah, I will answer that. Any thoughts on schools who do summer camps? Do you see them being able to do this summer? I believe that might be a little bit irresponsible. I don't see, I mean, it's doable, but it all depends on which stage of the are we on as we come off the COVID 19 situation. If by summer things are pretty much almost like, with a, it's almost back to normal, I think it's doable. If it's not 100% back to normal, then you're gonna need, okay, run the summer camps if you want to, but one, make sure with your insurance company that what steps you need to take. Then you have to deal with all the, taking responsibility of cleaning and how do you address the social distancing and all this other stuff, right? Does everybody have to wear masks? And you really need to think this through, because it all depends on where we are coming off of this. Is it in phase one? Is it in phase two? Is it in phase three, or whatever it is that they're talking about? So you have to be careful whether you have to, again, we have to weigh in whether or not you could take all the necessary steps to make sure that it's safe for the kids and to make sure that the parents are confident of wanting to do this. So it all really depends on a lot of that.
What do you think of the Rice brothers choosing to reopen from Lorenz?
I saw that. Again, if they're willing to do that, it's a risk. And some people are willing to take that risk. And you got to read the whole article. They're basing it on the fact that where they are, there's very, very low cases. And they're like, man, they can't justify losing their business and losing their academy, that when the amount of cases they have for COVID-19 is super low, right?
Oh,
So they're like, okay, we're gonna do it, or else we have to close up shop. But again, what you have to understand, okay, go ahead and do it. Number one, I don't know if they can get arrested or penalized or fined for it. I don't know what their state or their governor, how they're gonna address that. And number two, it takes one person in that academy to get COVID, and they're going to shut you down, because nobody's going to want to come and train. Nobody's going to want to come, and you're going to have to be closed anyway, because they can't risk spreading more and more, further and further. So you're taking a massive risk. But for them, they're like, it's a massive risk either way. We either open up doors and have classes and take the risk of someone getting sick and we have to close, or we're going to have to close because we can't afford to stay open. So it really is like a very, very tough decision that they're making.
I have mixed feelings on that, because like if you choose to stay open, you're putting more people at risk, not just like your personal business closing down. But
yeah, I know it's a tough decision. We got 1 minute left, everyone, and 1 minute left, everybody. Any questions, comments? Throw them out there now. Would we? I don't know at this point whether or not there's going to be COVID waivers. I have to talk to my insurance company, but it is something that needs to be addressed.
So 45 seconds. Any plugs? Any shameless plugs?
Coffee with Costa, YouTube. Coffee with Costa, YouTube. And 7 o'clock tonight, Justin Bruckman Adventure. Check it out on Instagram. I'm going to be joining my good friend Justin Bruckman to talk all craziness.
Guys, I'm going to be posting more polls on like more community groups on Facebook. Please comment on them. Comment the things you want to see,
10,
topics.
9,
like and subscribe.
8.
Talk to me. Oh God. Thank you so much, guys.
Much love.